The Airfix Club Kit 2023. See what comes inside the box right here on Gary's Stuff. Hi there, I'm Gary. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you've been here before. So today I am indeed looking at the 2023 Airfix Club offering, the 1/72 Gloster Meteor FR.9. This comes with your membership. I'll have a brief look at the history of the Meteor. I'll have a look at what other Meteor kits are around in 1/72 in the marketplace. And of course, I'll have a look at what you get in the box. All these things come as chapters. You can just hop backwards and forwards as your heart desires. Now, if you're thinking of the club membership or you've got one and, do I really want this or not? This is a video for you to see what you get. If you've already got one and you're thinking of how to build it, well, you can either check out my Meteor F8 video, which is already around, or you can wait a few days and catch my build video of this. Either one of those you can find most easily by subscribing to the channel. If you hit the bell as well, you'll be notified of news videos as they turn up, including the build of this kit. As usual, if you enjoy what you see, please remember Imperial thumbs up on the like button below. And if you want to support the channel in any more concrete ways, you can do that through super thanks, through my channel membership, or indeed through any of my partner programs. Let's get on then and have a quick look at the history of the Gloster Meteor. The Gloster Meteor was the first jet aircraft to enter service with the Royal Air Force and the only Allied jet fighter to see service during the Second World War. Different marks of the aircraft served with the RAF until the 1970s, and its strong export sales made a significant contribution to the post-war British economy. The first jet-powered flight in the UK was made by the experimental Gloster E-2839 aircraft on 15th May 1941, powered by an engine designed by Sir Frank Whittle. Calculations by Glosters and the Royal Aircraft Establishment suggested a fighter based on two of these Whittle engines should weigh about 4,100 kilos and be armed with a mix of 20mm cannon and .303-inch machine guns. Glosters received an order for 12 prototypes, later reduced to 8, and the aircraft got the name Meteor. The first flight of a prototype was on the 5th of March 1943. The first production aircraft, the Meteor F1, entered service with 616 Squadron RAF in July 1944, just 1 month after D-Day. In its early deployment, the principal target was the German V1 flying bomb. The first V1 was downed by a tipping X-wing, as demonstrated here by a Spitfire. This unsettles the gyroscope so much it causes the V1 to tumble out of control. 300 F1s had been ordered, but only 14 were delivered before the improved F3 became available. 616 Squadron converted to the faster aircraft in December 1944. Meteors were forbidden from flying over German-held territory, so the much-anticipated combat between the Meteor and the German Me-262 jet fighter never took place. Some Meteors were painted white to prevent friendly fire from anti-aircraft units. Development continued after the war with the F4. 2 of these were used to capture the world airspeed record, the fastest being Teddy Donaldson, who in 1946 flew a Meteor F4 to a speed of 991 km per hour, or 616 miles per hour. In 1948, the definitive production Meteor was unveiled, the F8. The Meteor F8 had Derwent 8 engines, each producing 3,600 pounds of thrust, twice as much as was available to the F1, and it was fitted with an ejection seat and a revised tail design. As well as forming the backbone of the British fighter force, the F8 was a huge export success. The Meteor F8 served with the Royal Australian Air Force during the Korean War. 77 Squadron started combat operations with the Meteor in July 1951 in the ground attack role. As a fighter, the Meteor was outclassed by the superb MiG-15. However, in March 1953, Sergeant George Hale shot down one MiG and got a probable kill on another. Later Meteor types included the T-7 two-seat trainer, the PR-9 and the PR-10 photo reconnaissance variants, as well as the NF-11 to NF-14 night fighters with increasingly long noses to accommodate radar sets. Many other Meteors was used as flying test beds for engines such as the Trent turboprop, early tests on reheat or afterburners, and the tiny SAW turbojet intended for cruise missiles. Towards the end of its service life, many Meteors were converted for target towing duties or to be unmanned targets themselves. One was even converted to test the prone flying position, an aircraft my dad flew in as human ballast. Many Meteors survive in museums all over the world, including the first prototype, DG202, which is in the RAF Museum at Hendon in North London. Just a handful of Meteors are still airworthy. A Meteor F8, painted to represent that flown by George Hale in Korea, is flown in Australia, and a Meteor T7 is currently flying with the Planes of Fame collection in Chino, California. A Meteor NF-11 is being restored to flying condition at Bruntingthorpe Airfield in the UK. But perhaps the most celebrated are the Meteors used from the outset by the Martin Baker Company to test their ejection seats. A fitting modern-day use for Britain's first jet. This club kit from 2023 is the first variant of the new tooling Meteor F8 released in 2022. The previous Airfix Meteor started as a new tool in 1970 with classic box art by Roy Cross. It was last released in 2008 as half of a dogfight double with a V1 flying bomb. The Meteor has been seen as an Airfix club kit before. In 2012, this was a rebox of the 2009 kit of the F8 Meteor, itself a rebox of an MPM kit. That MPM kit was created as the FR.9 version in 2006 and has spawned a range of variants, including the F8 in 2007, a Mark IV in 2009, a Mark III and a PR-10 in 2010, a T7 trainer and a Mark I in 2011, and in 2013 the F8 Prone Pilot Meteor and the turboprop-powered Trent Meteor. The same tooling was sold by Revell in 2011 and by Special Hobby in a range of new boxings, as well as from Azure, all still derived from that original 2006 tooling. Frog made a 1/72nd scale kit of the Meteor F8 in 1953, and this was on sale all the way through to 1968. In 1970, a new tool was created, subsequently sold by Hasegawa and also by Novo. Matchbox pioneered the production of the later Meteors in 1986, a kit that was picked up later in 2007 by Extra Kit. Other Extra Kit releases from 2006 and from 2008 derived from that fertile MPM heritage. Most recently, Special Hobby has created its own new tooling of the later Meteor NF-12 from 2019, following it with an NF-11, and then with the last version of the Meteor, the NF-14. The box is reasonably smart. It's got line drawings of the two schemes on the front. No need for brand new artwork by Adam Tooby to go on there, presumably. Limited edition, which it is. One kit, two decal options. Number 8 Squadron at RAF Sharjah in 1958. And the Combat Squadron 2111 from the Ecuadorian Air Force at Tara Air Force Base in 1973, which is all over metal look as opposed to the camouflage look. Usual warnings on the side of the boxes, recap of the colour schemes there, and on the side here, skill level 2, which means it should be fairly straightforward to do. Call out for the paints that are used. You'll notice on this, there's no flying hours because this is a club kit. You don't get 2 bites of that particular cherry. Okay, let's have a look at what we get inside the box. So, one plastic bag with all the sprues in, plus another plastic bag inside with the transparent parts in. We will have a look at those later on. There's the usual instruction sheet, and of course the decal sheet, transfer sheet, call it what you will. All these are the common ones here. These for the Ecuadorian aircraft and these for the RAF aircraft. But again, we'll have a proper look at those in a moment. Right, so first thing I wanted to mention, a lot of people are saying, well, why do Airfix still use plastic bags to hold their parts in? But first, of course, there's one bag for 4 frames here, plus another bag for the transparencies. That second bag is just to keep the transparencies from rubbing in so the parts are getting scratched. One thing about a plastic bag is it does mean that if a part breaks off, like this one has fallen away from one of the frames, it's part of the nose gear, I believe, then if you've got a plastic bag, it will stay in the plastic bag and you won't lose it. Whereas if it's in a box, it can get stuck behind the flaps of the box and you'll never see it again. So that's why they still have plastic bags for the smaller parts of a kit. Okay, we go through the parts in a bit more detail. This here is frame A. So we have the fuselage, the turbines at the back, the spars, this front spar, back spar. We have alternate air inlets, long and short versions of the air inlets for the engines as well. Frame B, very simply, the lower and upper parts of the main wing. Frame C, cockpit part, base and sides, front end of the engines, exhausts, the gear doors if they're up, you use this part, fuel tank, flying surfaces, tailplane and fin. Frame D is essentially everything else, so all the parts of the undercarriage, wheels, undercarriage bays, ejection seats, the undercarriage doors, air brakes, parts of the spar system, nose wheel assembly. That's a real pain in the backside, by the way. Pilot, you get a pilot figure as well. And finally, for the grey parts, it's frame E, which is specific to this kit at the moment. You'll notice here, this is where you have the fighter reconnaissance nose with the windows for cameras and rockets. Now, the kit, the Ecuadorian aircraft in the kit has 8 rockets. This one's got 24. So these 8 here, I think, are for the Ecuadorian aircraft. These 16 here, I suspect, are for a later release of this kit, possibly, say, an F8 from Australia in Korea, because they used to double stack the rockets. So you'd have 16 rockets under the wings instead of 8. Maybe that's next year's CapEx 2 or 3 release. Once this is done, next year we'll have another Meteor F8, but with the Australian markings and from Korea, and the double stacked rockets as one of the options. That's what I think, at least. But for now, if you want the Ecuadorian version, there are 8 rockets here to go under the wings. And finally, there's frame F1. This has the canopies. There's 2 canopies moulded in as an option for the F8. The windscreen, I think gun sight is in there, and so those are the windows for the FR.9 nose right there. Oh, and a light for the nose as well. Looking at the parts in a little bit more detail, the panel lines are fine, the rivet lines are okay, rivet lines around the guns here are fine. It's these bits here which are the turbine ends of the outlet of the jet here. Do you know that they look a bit shiny at times? I know that Airfix say this is the same, they use the same plastic everywhere, but do you know what? I actually don't think they do. Having been to the factory where they make the Spitfire and seeing the plastic they use there, which is very different, not just a different colour but different feel even. This overseas made plastic, whether it's got a bit more softener in it or a bit more flow improver, or just a different dye in it, dye chips in it, I don't know what it is, but these never look as sharp and as crisp as they used to, and the plastic does have that darkish, slightly brownish grey look about it. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. But the mouldings are fine. There's no visible signs of any flash. The moulds are like a year old, so there shouldn't be. But you know, the insides are fine. Ejector pin marks. There are some. These ones in here are a bit irrelevant. In here, that can be got rid of quite simply. It's not a major thing. It would have been nice to see those properly ground down, of course. Again, on the wings, here you'll see let's see if I can get the light on them. There's the upper surface of the wings, the detailing on the wing. Again, it's just that, not quite that crisp. And here on the lower wing, there are the rocket positions. You'd have seen that, well, this is the same, exactly the same moulding as used in the F8. So in the F8 we saw these and thought, aha, there's going to be a version with rockets. This is the first version with rockets. There's cutouts there for or points there for the fuel tank. If you're not having the fuel tank and you are using one of the stands, there's holes here for the stands to fit. But you know, it's okay. The flow looks all right. It's crisp enough. I do like that it's just on the upper surfaces of the wings, the feed lines that actually go onto the leading edge. On the lower surfaces, they've managed to avoid the leading and trailing edges completely, which is nice. There we have the pilot figure. I think it looks quite small. You know, there's a ruler. It's 1.5 centimetres, but it is sort of, you know, it is crouched a bit. I think 2 centimetres would make it, at 1/72nd, would make him 1.54 meters tall. I don't think that figure unravelled would be 2 centimetres tall. I think that's an undersized figure for a pilot. But that's just my impression. Maybe Meteor pilots were chosen because they didn't run to a spectacular size, a bit like early cosmonauts and astronauts. So they were small and didn't take up much weight. This is the nose that's irrelevant now because that's the F8 nose. We'll have a look at the FR.9 nose, which is here. There we go. So FR.9 nose, it's got the gun ports still, it's got the window there, it's got a flat windowed surface at the front as well. And we also have all the rockets as the rocket tails and the rockets themselves. You can see here on this one, these are obviously intended for just single use, single stacks, because that's where they fit in and there's nothing underneath. Whereas on the double stack ones, you can see there's this other slot, this other slot here, and then the other tier of rockets, as it were, has this part here to fit into there. to double stack the rockets. And here you can see on the frame where part 12 has come off. That's the part we found in the bag earlier on. The instructions, very, very similar to the F8, of course, because there's very little difference between them. Here, a quick summary of the aircraft in 5 languages with some brief specifications. Here is the notification, wash the parts in warm soapy water. They've always put that on. You know, sometimes the moulding people do use a release agent to help get the parts out. They shouldn't do, really. They don't in the Spitfire production at Airfix. They in the UK they never use release agents at all. In fact, they get quite angry if they see a release agent anywhere near the press when they're making Spitfires. But overseas, who knows what they do to get the numbers through in time. Anyway, I've always given them a light washing more, so I don't see it can hurt, so that's what I do anyway. Inside the instructions, assembly instructions in plenty languages, interpretation of the icons they use, and then the instructions themselves, absolutely as normal. Oh, that's 12 was the gears, the joystick. That was the piece that was loose, was D12. So it's quite handy. I found that, really. All of this is pretty much the same. They recommend 8 grams of weight in the front. I tend to put about 10 in, but we'll see later about that when it comes to the build video. There's the position of the rockets, etc. on there. And pretty much everything else is the same. The only difference really comes with the nose here. These parts onwards, where the noses are different. So that is all very straightforward, really. Then there's 2 schemes, of course. This is the FR.9 from number 8 Squadron, RAF, based in the Trucial States at Sharjah in 1958. There's the PRU Azure Blue underside, which is really nice. Tempted to go for this scheme, actually, so I've never used that colour. I might have to, well, I have to get that colour. And also, it's quite cute colours, doing the camouflage. When I made the F8, I did that as the Belgian Air Force aircraft, which was all over metal. So it'd be nice to make one with some camouflage on. What's it say here? Okay. Right, so when photographed in 1958, this aircraft had white intake lips and the nose flash with drop tanks and pylons in silver. Well, we need to remember that, don't we? The other scheme is for the Ecuadorian aircraft from Combat Squadron 2111, based at Tara Air Force Base in 1973. This one comes with the rocket packs, or the racks of rockets on it, I should say, rocket packs. The racks of rockets. There is an alternate version of this. Aztec Models makes a decal set for another Ecuadorian aircraft, but one that was to do with some sort of celebration. It's got like loads of blue at the front end, looks really pretty. Just in case you can grab hold of one of those. And then stencil data. There's a lot of stencils on a Meteor. I'm not entirely sure why, but there are. It's coming into the modern age where everything had to be stenciled, I guess. So there's quite a lot on there that we'll work our way through. So there we go. That's the instructions. And here is the decal sheet, transfer sheet, call it what you will. Over here, the common stencils with lots of stencils. Lots and lots and lots of stencils saying things like don't open this, or make sure you close that, or what are you looking at? Loads and loads of those, so it's going to be quite fun to put those on. Of course, there's the cockpit as well in here. Over here is the A scheme options here, which is the one I'll be doing, which is number 8 Squadron, Royal Air Force. Very nice colours, all very good. Interesting, the colours are the same here as on the roundels for the Fuerza Aérea Ecuadoriana. I thought I'd have at least one go at saying that. Apologies to my Ecuadorian and indeed Spanish speaking friends if that wasn't quite right. FAE, I'll call it from now on. Considerably fewer markings. They, on bare metal, but they still had all of the stencils. Stencils still in English, so that's quite bizarre. I guess it's a very expensive process to respray them all in Spanish, and English is supposed to be the international language of aviation, so maybe they were just told, get on with it. Where it says that means don't touch. These are all by Cartograph, as usual, custom made for this particular kit, and the colours are very fine. The reds look about right. Reds, RAF red can get a bit strange on some kits. That sort of slightly darker, dully red is very good. Blues are nice. They're sharp, crisp, and look very fun. But then that's Cartograph, that's why Airfix chose them. But I will still show you a close-up, as close as I can get to show you what I mean about the quality. So there we go. I'll put this in roughly, and you can see this is a point of a skewer, so there's keep off and datum points and things like that. They're very sharply printed. These are going to look grand when they're on the aircraft. Just see if I can get this for you so you can have a look at the... There we go. That's the control panel as well. Very crisp, very clean. Should be good. There we go then, that's what you get inside the box. I think, its value is apparently £24. It's £23.99 is the cost of the F8 kit. You can't get the FR.9 kit at all. Club membership's £24, 27 if you're renewing it, so you could be renewing it for 27, getting a £24 kit, and then you've got the other bits and pieces to worry about. Up to you whether or not it's worth getting the club membership, but otherwise you're going to have to try and pick one of these up on the second-hand market. Goodness only knows what prices are going to get like. So, I think it's grand. I think it'll make a nice kit. I'm looking forward to building it. Of course, you want to see the build. Best way to do that is to subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell and you're notified of all my new videos as they arrive, including the build of this kit. And if you like what you see on any of my videos, please do remember the imperial thumbs up on the like button below. Every like helps. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you very soon. Take care now. Goodbye.